My name's Alex Rivera, and up until that soggy October night in 2018, I thought I had my life figured out, or at least the parts that mattered. I was 22, a junior at Northwestern scraping by on scholarships and late-night shifts at a campus coffee shop, majoring in journalism because I figured words could fix what fists couldn't. Growing up in the shadow of Chicago's South Side, I'd learned early that dreams were fragile things, easily crushed under the weight of expectations. My mom worked double shifts as a nurse, my dad had split when I was 10, and my little sister Mia was the only reason I didn't drop out and run. But there was one escape: Gabriel Hayes. Gabe and I met freshman year in a dorm lounge, bonding over bad horror movies and a shared hatred for our lit professor's droning voice. He was the golden boy, tall, blonde, effortlessly charismatic, the kind of guy who could charm a room full of skeptics. We were inseparable. Study sessions in the quad, road trips to Lake Michigan, and endless nights debating everything from politics to pizza toppings. Gabe's family lived in Evanston, just north of campus, in a sprawling colonial house that screamed old money. His mom, Sarah, was a high school counselor with a laugh like wind chimes. His dad, Emmanuel, was the quiet force, the ex-cop turned private investigator who fixed cars in the garage on weekends and grilled steaks like they were suspects under interrogation. Emmanuel Hayes. God. Even thinking his name now sends a shiver down my spine. He was in his late 40s, built like he could still chase down a perp if needed, with broad shoulders under faded flannel shirts and eyes the color of storm clouds, gray and piercing, like they saw right through your bullshit. I'd always been polite around him. The way you are with your best friends, Dad. Yes, sir. No, thank you. Handing over the dish towel after dinner. But there was something about him that tugged at me. A quiet intensity that made my stomach flip when he'd ruffle Gabe's hair or flash that rare, crooked smile. I chalked it up to admiration. After all, Emmanuel had stories. Tales of busting corrupt aldermen in the 90s, of losing partners to the job's grind. He was the kind of man who'd seen the underbelly of America and come out swinging. That night started innocent enough. Gabe's 21st birthday bash was in full swing at their house. The backyard strung with fairy lights and a bonfire crackling against the autumn chill. Bottles clinked, laughter echoed off the brick patio, and I nursed a beer in the corner, watching Gabe hold court with his lacrosse buddies. I wasn't much for crowds. My queerness was still a half-kept secret, whispered in hookups that never lasted and prayers that maybe it'd fade. Gabe knew, of course. He'd been the first, catching me staring too long at a guy in chem lab and just shrugging it off with, "Dude, love who you love. World's shitty enough without faking it." But telling the world, not yet. By midnight, the party thinned out, folks piling into Ubers or stumbling home. I missed the last train south, my phone dead from snapping pics for Gabe's Insta story. "Crash here?" Gabe slurred, clapping my shoulder. "Mom's got the guest room." But Emmanuel appeared in the kitchen doorway, keys jingling, his work boots scuffed from whatever case had kept him late. "I'll drop him," he said, voice gravelly from years of Chicago winters. Gabe waved it off, too buzzed to argue, and Sarah was already herding stragglers inside. So there I was, sliding into the passenger seat of Emmanuel's old Ford Taurus, the leather seats cracked and smelling faintly of motor oil and pine air freshener. "Thanks, Mr. Hayes," I mumbled, buckling up as he fired up the engine. The rain had just started, a light patter that turned to sheets by the time we hit Sheridan Road. "Call me Manny," he replied, eyes on the road. "Mr. Hayes makes me feel like I'm back in uniform." A pause, the wipers slapping rhythmically. "Good party." "Yeah, Gabe's a legend." I glanced at him, the dashboard glow casting shadows on his jawline. Up close, he looked tired, lines etched deeper than I remembered. A fresh scar above his eyebrow from God knows. "You missed the cake. It was chocolate, 3 layers. He chuckled, low and warm. "Sounds like excess. Kids got my sweet tooth." We fell into easy chatter. Northwestern's football woes, the Bears' latest scandal, my internship at the Daily Northwestern chasing stories on gentrification. Felt normal, safe, until we passed the Devon Avenue exit, the direct shot to my mom's place in Rogers Park. Emmanuel's hands tightened on the wheel. "Change of plans," he said, voice dropping an octave. He flicked on the blinker, veering left onto a narrow artery that snaked toward the lakefront, away from the city lights. My pulse quickened. "What, This isn't the way. I know. His profile was stone, rain blurring the passing warehouses. We need to talk, Alex. About Gabe. My mouth went dry. Gabe? What the hell? Had I said something at the party? Spilled a beer on his shoes? But Emmanuel's tone wasn't angry. It was weighted, like he was carrying bricks in his chest. The car slowed, pulling into a deserted lot by a shuttered steel mill, the kind of place where echoes died quick. Waves crashed against the breakwater in the distance, the storm now a full roar. He killed the engine, the sudden silence deafening save for the rain's assault. Look, kid, Alex, I'm not blind. The way you look at him, it's more than friendship. My blood turned to ice. Oh God, he knew. Not just suspected, knew. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out, my face burning under his steady gaze. It's okay, he said softer, unbuckling his seatbelt. I'm not here to judge, but Gabe, he doesn't see it. And I can't let you get hurt. Hurt? The word landed like a gut punch. I'd spent years burying that ache, the stupid, hopeless crush on my straight-as-an-arrow best friend. Gabe with his easy grins and arm slings around my shoulders, oblivious to how it twisted me up inside. I'd never acted on it, never would. But Emmanuel? How long had he been watching? I started voice cracking. It's not like that. We're just friends. Bullshit. He leaned back, rubbing his temple. I've seen that look before. On my own face. In the mirror. Back when I was your age and too scared to admit what it meant. The confession hung there, raw and electric. Emmanuel Hayes, the unflappable PI, the family man with the white picket fence, was telling me he was gay? My brain short-circuited. Rain drummed on, the world narrowing to this car, this man, this impossible truth. You. What? He sighed, long and weary. Sarah knows. We made it work, open on my end, mostly. But Gabe? He's got no idea. About me, about any of it. And if he catches wind of your feelings. He trailed off, eyes distant, like he was replaying a nightmare. I swallowed hard, the pieces slotting into place. The late nights Emmanuel worked, the way Sarah's smiles sometimes didn't reach her eyes. The solitude in his garage, tinkering with engines like they held answers. Why tell me now? Because you're a good kid, Alex. And tonight, at the party, you looked ready to break. I couldn't just drive you home and pretend. The vulnerability in his voice cracked something in me. Here was this man, twice my age, who'd built walls around his heart, offering me a glimpse inside. I wanted to bolt, to laugh it off, but instead, I whispered, "It hurts. Every damn day." He nodded like he'd expected it. It does, but it gets different. Not easier, but bearable. If you let it. We sat there for what felt like hours, the storm raging outside as he shared fragments of his life. Coming out in the 90s, when AIDS headlines screamed fear and cops weren't exactly waving rainbow flags. The compromise with Sarah for Gabe's sake. The quiet affairs that filled the voids but left him emptier. I listened, mesmerized, my own secrets spilling out in fits. The rejection from my first boyfriend in high school. The fear of losing Gabe if he ever knew. It was cathartic, terrifying, like lancing a wound I'd ignored too long. Eventually, the rain eased to a drizzle, and Emmanuel restarted the car. "Let's get you home." But as we pulled out, his hand brushed mine on the gearshift. A fleeting touch, warm and accidental, that sent sparks up my arm. Neither of us acknowledged it. Not then. That detour? It wasn't just a road off the highway. It was the first crack in the facade, the moment everything shifted. I didn't sleep that night, replaying his words, his eyes, the weight of what we'd shared. And the next morning, when Gabe texted me a blurry party selfie with "Missed you, bro. Round too soon?" I stared at my phone, guilt twisting like a knife. How could I keep this from him? From Emmanuel? Little did I know, the real storm was just brewing. The weeks after that ride blurred into a haze of avoidance and overcompensation. I dodged Gabe's invites, claiming deadlines or shifts, burying myself in articles about corrupt landlords evicting families from Pilsen row houses. But Emmanuel lingered in my thoughts like smoke. His gravelly laugh, the way his fingers drummed the wheel when he was thinking. I'd catch myself staring at the Hayes house from the L train, wondering if he was in the garage, grease-streaked and solitary. Gabe noticed, of course. "Dude, What's with the ghosting? He cornered me one crisp November afternoon in the student union. His lacrosse hoodie zipped to his chin against the wind off the lake. We were grabbing sandwiches, turkey clubs, extra mayo for him, avocado toast for my pretentious ass, when he fixed me with that puppy dog stare. You okay? Party too wild? Or is it that internship eating your soul? I forced a grin, poking at my fries. Nah, just buried. Got a feature due on the opioid crisis in Cicero. Heavy shit. He nodded, sympathetic, but his eyes narrowed. You've been weird since my birthday, like distant. If it's about crashing at hours or whatever, it's not. Like, all of it. But how do you tell your best friend his dad just outed his own buried truth to you? Stirring up feelings you didn't even know you had. Promise. Hey, how's practice? You guys crushing it? Deflection worked for a bit. Gabe launched into tales of fumbled plays and coaches' tirades. His energy infectious as always. That's what I loved about him. The unfiltered joy, the way he pulled you into his orbit without trying. But as we walked back to the dorms, slush crunching under our boots, I felt the fracture widening. Emmanuel's words echoed. He doesn't see it. And now, neither did I, not just for Gabe, but for the man who'd cracked open his chest to show me the scars. It wasn't until Thanksgiving that things reignited. Gabe's family invited me over, tradition, since Mom was pulling a holiday shift and Mia was with her dad's in Milwaukee. The Hayes dining room glowed with candles, turkey steaming on a platter carved by Emmanuel's steady hand. Sarah fussed over the stuffing, Gabe cracked dad jokes that fell flat, and I sat across from Emmanuel, our knees inches apart under the table. Every glance was a minefield. His eyes meeting mine over mashed potatoes, a flicker of something unspoken, gratitude, regret, heat. After pie, Gabe dragged me to the basement for Xbox, but I excused myself for air, stepping onto the back porch where frost rimed the railing. The neighborhood was quiet, sodium lamps buzzing like distant fireflies. Footsteps creaked behind me, and there he was, Emmanuel, 2 beers in hand, his wool coat unbuttoned against the cold. Figured you'd need this, he said, pressing one into my palm. Our fingers touched again, deliberate this time, lingering a beat too long. Gabe's got you cornered down there? I took a swig, the bitterness grounding me. Yeah, Mario Kart rematch. He's ruthless. Emmanuel leaned on the rail, exhaling fog. Always was. Competitive streak from his mom. A pause, the silence stretching. How you holding up, Alex? After, the hung heavy. The detour, the confessions, the way it had rewired my insides. I'm processing. It's a lot. I met his gaze, the porch light carving shadows on his face. Up close, he smelled of bay rum and wood smoke, a scent that rooted in my lungs. You? Regret spilling your guts to a kid half your age. He snorted, soft. Nah, needed saying. For both of us. His voice dipped. You're not a kid, Alex. Not the way you listen, the way you carry your own weight. Reminds me of, well, me back when. The air thickened, charged like the static before a squall. I wanted to ask more. About the lovers he'd lost, the nights he'd lain awake beside Sarah, heart adrift. Instead, I blurted, what if Gabe finds out? About you. About us talking. Emmanuel's jaw tightened. He won't. Not from me. But there was a shadow there, a flicker of fear. Gabe idolized his dad. The unbreakable cop, the fixer of all things. Shattering that, it'd be like toppling a monument. We stood there, beers forgotten, until Gabe's voice boomed from the basement stairs. Alex, your ass is grass. Get down here. Emmanuel squeezed my shoulder. Firm, paternal, but with an undercurrent that made my breath hitch, before retreating inside. That touch haunted me through the holiday break. Back in Rogers Park, I crashed on Mom's couch, helping with Mia's science fair volcano while dodging questions about school. But texts from Gabe piled up. Memes, invites to New Year's in the city. And then, one night, a missed call from an unknown number. Voicemail, Emmanuel's voice, clipped. Alex, it's Manny. Got your number from Gabe's phone. Case I'm on. Might cross paths with your beat. Watch yourself out there. Call if you need. I replayed it 10 times, heart racing. Was it just concern? Or something more? January brought snowdrifts and a new semester, but fate, or whatever cruel jester pulls strings, threw us together again. I was tailing a lead for my opioid story. Whispers of a dealer ring operating out of a shuttered pharmacy in Albany Park. Late one Friday, bundled in a peacoat too thin for the wind, I staked out from a coffee shop across the street, notebook in lap. Headlights swept the lot and my stomach dropped. Emmanuel's Taurus, unmistakable. He emerged, collar up, scanning the shadows like a wolf. Our eyes locked through the plate glass. Shit, I ducked, but too late he crossed the street, pushing into the shop with purpose. Stalking shadows now? He murmured, sliding into my booth, steam rising from his black coffee.
No hello, no pretense.
Investigative journalism. I shot back, cheeks flushing. What about you? PI gig bleeding into my turf. He glanced out the window, jaw set. Client's kid OD'd last month. Same crew you're sniffing. A beat. Dangerous game, Alex. These guys don't play by rules. I bristled, pride flaring. Neither do I. Someone's gotta tell the stories. His gaze softened, almost proud. Fair enough. But let me back you up. Off the record. What followed was a blur of shadowed alleys and whispered intel. Emmanuel feeding me tips on drop points, me slipping him photos from my stakeouts. We met in diners at dawn, his hands steadying mine over maps, our knees brushing under Formica tables. It was professional at first, but the lines blurred. A late-night call when I tailed a suspect too close, his voice urgent, "Get out now, head for the blue van." Or me bringing him coffee during a surveillance shift, our fingers intertwining briefly over the lid. Gabe started asking questions. "You're hanging with Dad now?" Weird flex, bro. Laughter, but edged with something. Curiosity? Suspicion? I brushed it off, but guilt gnawed deeper. This wasn't just a crush anymore. It was a connection, fragile and forbidden, blooming in the cracks of our lives. Then came the betrayal. Mid-February, Valentine's Day of all ironies. Gabe cornered me after class. "Spill it, Alex. What's going on with you and my old man?" His face was thunder, arms crossed in the quad's slush. My heart seized. "What? Nothing." I saw the texts. On his phone when he left it charging. "Meet at the diner. Got a lead. You're in deep, huh?" Not the affair, the case. But Gabe's eyes burned with hurt. Misunderstanding twisting the knife. "Gabe, it's work. My story. Bullshit. You're pulling away and now this? If you're into him or whatever, just say it. Don't sneak around like I'm the idiot." The world tilted. He thought, God, the irony. But denial died on my tongue. Tears stung, hot and furious. "You don't get it. You never have." I stormed off, leaving him stunned in the snow. That night, I called Emmanuel, voice breaking over the line. "Gabe knows. Sort of. It's falling apart." "Meet me," he said, no hesitation. "The mill lot. Same as before." The rain returned that night, biblical and unrelenting. As I pulled up in my beat-up Civic, Emmanuel waited, soaked to the bone, his coat flapping like a flag of surrender. We stood under the sagging awning of an old loading dock, water pooling at our feet. "Tell me," he urged, hands on my arms, grounding. I did. Gabe's accusation, the raw edge of his jealousy. Emmanuel's face crumpled, regret etching deeper lines. "This is my fault. I should have stayed away." "No." The word escaped fierce, desperate. In the downpour, barriers shattered. I stepped closer, our breaths mingling, and then, God help me, his lips met mine. Soft, tentative, tasting of rain and resolve. It wasn't fire. It was a quiet unraveling, years of silence pouring out in that kiss. His hands framed my face, thumbs brushing my cheeks, and for a moment, the world was just us. Two men adrift, finding harbor. But as we broke apart, thunder cracking overhead, headlights pierced the gloom. Gabe's Jeep, idling at the lot's edge. He'd followed me. The climax hit like lightning. Betrayal in triplicate, mine to Gabe. Emmanuel's hidden life exposed, and the fragile trust we'd built, splintering under the glare. Gabe's door slammed open, the Jeep's engine cutting with a final growl that echoed louder than the storm. He burst out, Rain slicking his hair to his forehead, eyes wild with a cocktail of fury and disbelief. What the actual fuck, Alex? Emmanuel stepped forward, shielding me instinctively, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. Gabe, son, listen. No! Gabe's shout sliced through, fists clenched at his sides. He looked between us, the pieces slamming together in his mind. The texts, the meetings, that damning kiss still hanging in the air like ozone. You? With him? My best friend and Dad. The word Dad cracked on the end, laced with venom and violation. I reached out, desperate. Gabe, wait. It's not what you. Save it. He backed away, boots splashing in puddles, his face a mask of betrayal I'd never seen. Raw, childlike. The boy who'd idolized us both now orphaned by our secrets. I trusted you, both of you, and this? Sneaking around like some Lifetime movie bullshit. Emmanuel's shoulders sagged, the unbreakable man fracturing. I never meant for this. Alex and I. It started with talking. About things I should have told you years ago. Gabe froze, rain streaming down his face like tears he wouldn't shed. Told me what? A beat of silence, heavy as lead. Emmanuel swallowed, then let it out. I'm gay, Gabe. Have been since before you were born. Your mom and I, we made choices. For you. For the family. The confession landed like a grenade. Gabe staggered, as if punched, his mouth working soundlessly. I'd imagined this moment 1,000 ways, coming out to him myself, easing him into it, but not like this, not with his world imploding in a flooded parking lot. You lied, he whispered finally, voice breaking. All those years, the jokes, the straight dad act. You let me think.
I'm sorry.
Emmanuel's words were a plea, arms outstretched. I was scared. The job, the neighborhood, the 90s, it wasn't safe. But hiding it? That was cowardice. Gabe's gaze shifted to me, wounded deeper. And you? Was this your plan? Seduce him to get back at me for whatever? No. The denial tore from me sharp. I love you, Gabe, as a friend. Always have. But this, with your dad, it's real. Separate. The truth burned, exposing the tangle. My old crush on Gabe a faded echo. Emmanuel the unexpected anchor. He laughed, bitter and hollow. Love, right? You two deserve each other. Liars and ghosts. With that, he spun, slamming back into the Jeep. Tires spun gravel as he peeled out, taillights vanishing into the night. Emmanuel turned to me, drenched and defeated. Go after him. I shook my head, numb. He needs space. We all do. We drove back separately, the miles stretching like accusations. At my apartment, he idled curbside, engine humming. This can't. It can, I interrupted, leaning through the window. We talk. To him. Together. But doubt clawed. Gabe's face, that shattered trust. Had we destroyed the one pure thing? The fallout was seismic. Gabe ghosted. Texts unread. Calls to voicemail. Sarah called Emmanuel that night. Her voice steel over speaker. Fix this, Manny, or we're done. Classes blurred. My opioid story stalled. Words failing on the page. Nights, I'd walk the lakefront. Wind whipping like judgment. Replaying the kiss. The first real one I dared. Emmanuel texted sparingly. Case updates. Then softer. You okay? I was in fragments. He was my mirror, reflecting the man I could become. Flawed, resilient, unafraid. 2 weeks in, a knock shattered the silence. Gabe, hollow-eyed, pizza box in hand. Our old peace offering. We need to talk. All of us. We met at a neutral diner off Clark Street. Vinyl booths sticky with grease, coffee bitter as regret. Emmanuel arrived last, Sarah in tow, her presence a quiet anchor. Gabe slid the box over, untouched. I hate you both. For the lies. For making me feel like a fool. Emmanuel nodded, no defenses. Fair. I fucked up, Gabe. But I love you, always have. This doesn't change that. Gabe's eyes glistened. It changes everything. But, I get it. Hiding. I hid too. Thought if I was the perfect son, it'd fix whatever was broken. He glanced at me. And you, Alex. I was jealous. Thought you were drifting because of me. Turns out it was this. Relief cracked the tension, tentative. Sarah reached for his hand. We're all broken, kiddo, but family's what we rebuild. Words tumbled then. Apologies, explanations, tears over cooling fries. Gabe grilled Emmanuel on the past. The first crush, the closeted years on the force, the therapy that led to their open marriage. I shared my fears, the isolation of being queer in a world that still flinched. It wasn't absolution. Wounds don't heal overnight. But it was a start, human, messy, achingly real. Spring thawed the ice. Gabe and I rebuilt slow. Pick-up hoops in the park, beers without the barbs. He even met my boyfriend. Officially now, Emmanuel and I stealing moments in his garage. Hands intertwined over carburetors. Kisses that deepened without shame. No grand gestures, just quiet dates. Jazz at the Green Mill. Walks along the drive where Lake Michigan whispered forgiveness. One June evening, as fireflies danced in the Hayes backyard, Gabe raised a glass at a low-key barbecue. To Detours, he toasted. Eyes wry on Emmanuel and me, arms linked casual. They suck, but they get you home. Laughter rippled. Sarah's bright, Mia's giggly from her perch on my lap. Emmanuel squeezed my hand under the table, his gray eyes warm. Here. America's heart beats in these moments. The grind of cities that chew you up, the loves that stitch you back. Betrayal scarred us, but it humanized too. Teaching that vulnerability isn't weakness, that family isn't blood or labels, but the choice to show up, rain or shine. Gabe's still straight as a ruler, my brother in all but name. Emmanuel, my partner in the truest sense, gray hairs and all. And me? I'm writing again. Stories of hidden lives emerging into light. That detour? It didn't just change the evening. It rerouted my soul.